back. As we continue our look at racism, the question that is unavoidable is, what about crime? In tonight's DML Investigates, we take a look at race, crime, and the use of police force. Emmy Award-winning reporter Billy Tucker is here with me to take a look at reality that might surprise you. Bill.
Well, you know, it's interesting, Dennis. I thought I'd take a look at these numbers, and in doing so, I went and looked at the FBI crime statistics from 2013, and I relied on the data of a PhD out of the University of Toledo's School of Criminal Justice, a guy named Ron Johnson. And it really reveals some really disturbing facts. First of all, it turns out that we're pretty tribal in our killings, which ought to be headline enough, you'd think. According to the FBI crime stats in 2013, just over 3,000 whites were murdered. 85% of those whites who were killed by other white people. Fewer blacks were murdered, just about 2,500, and 90% of those blacks were murdered by blacks. The stats reveal pretty ugly truth, but they don't really show a war among whites and blacks. What we're trying to do, it reveals a topic we really don't like to talk about too much, which is black on black crime. Now, what about the news about cops abusing power and killing citizens? For these answers, I'm going to this study done at the University of Toledo by Richard Johnson, excuse me. Johnson looked at 4 years of crime statistics, 2009 to 2012. During those years, roughly 1,500 people died from the use of police force. You're not going to believe this next slide. 61.5% of those were white men who died at the hands of police force. 32% were black. The percentage of black men killed by misuse of police force as a percentage of the black male population is less than 1/10 of 1%. According to the research, Dennis, it would take cops 40 years to kill as many black men as have died at the hands of other black men. We don't like to talk seriously about race in this country. We typically just use it to drive an agenda or, to divide us. We don't talk about it honestly.
Racist lives don't matter.
I always say, we've been doing reports for a very long time.
Oh, gosh!
Several decades. Have you ever seen race as bad as it is today?
Race relations?
Yeah, No. I mean, in the 60s, I was born in 69, so it was a little bit before my time. But, I mean, this is the worst you've ever seen it, right?
Well, as a little kid, I was born in the 50s. And as a little kid, I remember, like, white and black drinking fountains. I remember getting in trouble for drinking out of the wrong fountain as a little kid because the black fountain was lower than the white fountain. Mm-hmm. So I remember those time periods. I remember the 60s in a lot of racial divide, but there were a lot of other things going on as well. What's interesting about now is that, you have people like the Attorney General, Eric Holder, when he was back at AG, saying we're cowards to talk about race. That's plain just BS. That's BS.
Yeah.
And you can't say race doesn't matter and then turn around and do what Black Lives Matter does, for example, and say, well, no, black matters. Now, the truth is that they're all lives. They all matter, but we don't want to have a discussion about that. But why? I don't know.
Because they're racist.
The media uses it. I know
ignorant, worthless, racist.
Yeah. But I do think the media uses it. They like it. It's a sensational topic. I've had it thrown at me. Bill, you're a racist for reporting on immigration. It's like, no, I'm not a racist for reporting on immigration. If you want to talk about race and you want to talk about immigration, well, guess what? Those two things are intertwined. You're going to have a conversation.
I want to do the media thing in a second because I think it's very important. But I also I don't want to allow President Barack Hussein Obama to escape.
Right.
I mean, I truly believe that he is part of what's fueling.
Oh, he's big time.
Now, why do you think? Do you think he's doing that because do you think inside he's an angry black guy?
Yeah, I think part of him is an angry black guy. Remember his quote about his grandmother? It's not that she's a racist; she's just a typical white person. And the comments about the kid in Florida, he could have been my son. Did you take a good look at that guy?
Yeah.
Could he really have been your son?
Right.
Why do you step in automatically on the side of the black man up in Boston and not on the policeman's side who's doing his job? Every time he errs to that...